The moon, a luminous pearl in a sky of deepest indigo, cast its silver light over the whispering woods. Here, where ancient trees with bark like woven starlight touched the heavens, and every rustle of leaf carried the memory of forgotten songs, lived Ilara. Her cottage, small and snug, was nestled so deeply within the woods that its walls seemed to breathe with the living forest itself. Most children of the village of Hearthwood preferred the sun-drenched paths and the boisterous laughter of daylight, but Ilara found her truest solace in the hushed magic of the night. Tonight, however, the familiar glow of the woods felt subdued. The moss that usually shimmered with an inner light, like scattered emeralds, was duller. The air, usually thick with the sweet perfume of night-blooming flora, carried only a faint whisper of fragrance. Even in the luminous motes, the tiny starfay that danced in the shadows seemed fewer, their light a weary pulse rather than a joyful flicker. Ilara, perched on her favorite branch of an ancient willow-whisperer tree, its branches long and weeping, brushing the ground like a sorrowful curtain, felt a prickle of unease. She had always known the woods intimately. Since she was old enough to follow the path of a glowworm, she had explored its glades and listened to its secrets. The elder trees, with their gnarled faces and deep-set eyes of emerald lichen, knew her by name. The moon moths, with wings like powdered moonbeams, would land on her outstretched finger without fear. The very air sang to her, a constant low hum of life and magic. But, tonight, that hum was faltering, like a melody losing its way in the dark. Carefully, Ilara descended from her perch, her bare feet making no sound on the cushion of fallen leaves. She wore a simple tunic woven from nettle silk, its color the muted green of the forest floor, and her long, dark hair was braided with sprigs of luminous night jasmine. Her eyes, the color of deep forest pools, scanned the gloom, searching for answers. She walked deeper, past the grove of laughing fireflies, whose usual playful antics were strangely absent, past the silent stream where the water wisp usually spun its shimmering veils. Everything felt muted. A shiver, not of cold, but of intuition, traced its way down her spine. The moonpetal. The thought bloomed in her mind, sudden and clear as a bell. Not just any moonpetal, for many delicate white-petaled flowers opened only to the moon's embrace, but fee moonpetal. The great moonpetal, the heart of the whispering woods, the source of its very magic. It was a legend whispered in hushed tones, a secret known only to the oldest and wisest of Hearthwood. It was said to bloom only once every 100 years, under the light of the rare silver moon, and its ethereal glow was what nourished the entire forest, from the smallest spore to the tallest elder tree. But the silver moon was still many weeks away. Why would the woods be fading now? Ilara turned, her heart a knot of growing worry. She needed to speak to grandmother Lyra. Lyra, with her eyes like ancient starlight and hands that knew the language of roots and leaves, would know. Lyra was the keeper of stories, the village's wise woman, and Ilara's own grandmother. The path back to Hearthwood seemed longer than usual, the shadows deeper, more watchful. When she finally reached the edge of the clearing where the small thatched cottages huddled, a faint light still flickered from Lyra's window. Ilara pushed open the familiar wooden door, the soft creak echoing in the quiet night. Grandmother Lyra sat by the hearth, her silver hair braided with iridescent beetle wings, gleaming softly in the dim light. A pot of fragrant herbal tea simmered over the coals, and the air was rich with the scent of dried lavender and rosemary. Lyra looked up, her gaze steady and knowing. "Ilara, my star child, I felt you coming, like a ripple in a still pond." Ilara knelt beside her, resting her head against Lyra's knee. "Grandmother, the woods, they are fading. The light is dim, the air is quiet. It feels weak." Lyra's hand, gnarled but gentle, stroked Ilara's hair. Child, I have felt it too. For many nights now, the hum of the forest has been a sigh rather than a song. The elder trees speak of a deep weariness. Is it the great Moonpetal?" Ilara whispered, the name feeling heavy on her tongue. Lyra's eyes, usually twinkling with stories, held a profound sadness. "It is, my brave one. The great Moonpetal, the heart light of our world, is dimming far too soon. The silver moon is weeks away, and its bloom should be a time of renewal, not of fading." Ilara looked up, her brow furrowed. "But why? What could cause it?" Lyra sighed, a sound like dry leaves rustling. The great Moonpetal is a sentinel, Elara. It is woven from the very fabric of starlight and moonbeams, planted by the first weavers when the world was young. Its roots reach into the very core of the earth, and its petals draw strength from the celestial dance above. It is a living balance, a beacon of purity and light. She paused, her gaze distant, as if seeing ancient visions. The legend says that as long as the great Moonpetal shines, the whispering woods will thrive, and all who dwell within its embrace will know peace. But if its light should ever falter, if its bloom should be disturbed, then a great imbalance will sweep across the land. Shadows will lengthen, and the magic itself will begin to fray. But it always renews itself, doesn't it? Elara asked, remembering snippets of the tale. Under the silver moon. Aye, it does, Lyra confirmed. Once every 100 years when the two moons, the pale, ancient Luna and the shimmering, youthful Selene, align perfectly in the sky, the great Moonpetal awakens fully. Its petals unfurl, each one a miniature moon, and it releases a wave of pure, revitalizing energy that washes over the woods, renewing every living thing. It is a sacred cycle, a promise of eternal life for our forest. Lyra's voice dropped to a near whisper. But the legends also speak of a time when the Moonpetal's light might fail before its cycle is complete, a time when a darkness, born of discord and forgetting, would seek to smother its glow. The woods would wither, the magic would drain, and the very memory of light would fade. Elara felt a chill seep into her bones. Is that what's happening now? Lyra nodded, slowly. The signs are clear, child. The streams run sluggish, the forest sprites are listless, and even the ancient willow whisperer wept dewdrops of sadness this morning. Something is drawing the light from the great Moonpetal, siphoning its essence before the silver moon can bring its renewal. And worse, the silver moon itself might be affected. Affected? How? The alignment, Lyra explained. The silver moon is not merely a sight, it is a profound magical event. For the great Moonpetal to fully renew, the celestial energies must be pure and strong. If a darkness is interfering with the Moonpetal here, on the land, it could also be reaching up, twisting the threads of the sky, making the alignment imperfect. A flawed silver moon would mean a flawed renewal, perhaps even no renewal at all. Elara's heart pounded. The thought of the whispering woods, her beloved home, losing its magic, its light, was unbearable. She had always felt a deep, almost physical connection to the forest, as if its vitality flowed through her own veins. When the woods thrived, she thrived. When it ached, she felt a dull throb in her own spirit. "What can we do, grandmother?" she asked, her voice tight with urgency. "We can't just let it happen." Lyra's gaze softened, a flicker of hope entering her eyes. "That, my star child, is why I have waited for you. You, Elara, are not like the others. You hear the whispers that others miss. You see the colors that others overlook. You are a true child of the moon and the woods, born under the brightest silver moon in living memory, with the scent of moon petals clinging to your cradle." She took Elara's hands, her touch warm and firm. The legends speak of a moonpetal guardian, born with the forest's heart in their own, who would rise in such a time of need. Someone who could feel the moonpetal's fading light, and who possessed the courage and wisdom to seek its restoration. Elara felt a surge of both trepidation and resolve. "You mean me?" "You, my Elara," Lyra confirmed. "Your spirit is intertwined with the great Moonpetal. You are the one who can feel its pulse, understand its sorrow. And you are the one who must embark on a journey, a quest, to understand what is afflicting it, and how to help it bloom anew." A quest? Elara's imagination, fueled by Lyra's countless stories of ancient heroes and magical creatures, sparked to life. Aye, a quest, not one of swords and battles, but of heart and spirit. You must journey to the heart of the whispering woods, to the hidden dell where the great Moonpetal rests. But before you can even approach it, you must understand the nature of the encroaching darkness. Lyra reached into a small, intricately carved wooden box beside her. She pulled out a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle with age, filled with elegant script and delicate drawings of strange plants and celestial maps. "This is the journal of the First Keepers. It speaks of the Moonpetal's deepest secrets, and of the forces that might seek to harm it. But it is not a map, child. It is a guide for the spirit, not for the feet. She then produced a small silver locket on a fine chain. Wear this. It contains a fragment of dried moonpetal from a long-past bloom. It will not grant you power, but it will help guide your senses, tuning you to the subtle magic of the woods. Elara carefully fastened the locket around her neck. It felt cool against her skin, and she imagined a faint, comforting warmth emanating from it. Your first task, Lyra continued, her voice gaining a renewed strength, is to follow the path of whispers deep into the elderwood. There, in the oldest part of the forest, stands the sentinel oak. Its roots are said to be woven around the very ley lines of the world, and it has seen countless ages pass. It will know what is drawing the light from the moonpetal. But the sentinel oak does not speak with words, Elara. It speaks in feelings and visions in the very pulse of the earth. The elderwood? It's so far, Elara murmured. The elderwood was a place of deep ancient magic, often avoided by villagers. Tales of lost travelers and mischievous sprites abounded. It is, Lyra agreed. But your path is true. Take what you need, dried berries, a water skin filled from the moonspring, and this. Lyra handed her a small smooth riverstone, glowing faintly with a soft internal light. It is a glowstone. It will light your way when the shadows are deepest, and it hums with the forest's own energy. It will keep the smaller, more mischievous spirits at bay. Elara gathered her few provisions, her mind buzzing with the enormity of the task. The locket felt heavier now, not with physical weight, but with the weight of responsibility. She looked at her grandmother, whose face was etched with both worry and unwavering faith. Be careful, my little Moonpetal, Lyra said, embracing her tightly. Trust your instincts. The woods are a part of you, and you are a part of them. Listen to their heart, and you will find your way. With a final heartfelt hug, Elara stepped out of the cottage, the glowstone clutched in her hand. The night air was cooler now, the silence of the woods more pronounced. The silver light of the moon still painted the path, but it felt thinner, stretched. She took a deep breath, the scent of damp earth and distant fading magic filling her lungs. The path of whispers began just beyond the village's edge, a narrow, winding trail, known only to the most seasoned woodsfolk. It was overgrown, shrouded by ancient ferns, and bordered by trees whose branches seemed to intertwine, forming a living tunnel. As she entered, the sounds of the village faded behind her, replaced by the hushed breathing of the forest. The glowstone pulsed softly, casting a gentle blue-white light that pushed back the deepest shadows, revealing the path ahead. Elara felt a tremor of fear, but beneath it, a stronger current of determination flowed. The whispering woods, her home, needed her. And the great Moonpetal, the heart of all magic, called to her. She walked on, deeper and deeper into the ancient embrace of the trees, towards the unknown, towards the sentinel oak, and towards the truth of the fading light. The air grew heavier, the silence more profound, but Elara pressed on, her spirit alight with a budding courage, guided by the faint hum of the glowstone and the whisper of the ancient legends in her heart. The moon moths, fewer and paler than usual, fluttered past, like lost dreams seeking a path home, their silent passage, a somber escort into the heart of the fading magic. The moon moths, fewer and paler than usual, fluttered past, like lost dreams seeking a path home, their silent passage a somber escort into the heart of the fading magic. Elara pushed through a curtain of ancient silvered vines, their leaves brittle to the touch, and stepped into a part of the whisperwood she had never seen before. Here, the trees were not merely old, they were ancient, their trunks so vast that Elara felt like a tiny seedling at their feet. Their bark was a tapestry of deep greens, grays, and faint, shimmering blues, etched with patterns that seemed to tell stories of forgotten ages. Roots as thick as her village's largest houses snaked across the forest floor, forming raised pathways and hollowed grottos, some so deep they vanished into pockets of profound darkness. The air grew heavy, not with dampness, but with an almost palpable weight of time and memory. It hummed with a low, resonant drone that was more felt than heard, like the slow, deep breath of the world itself. The usual rustle of leaves was absent, replaced by a profound, expectant silence that made Elara's own footsteps sound unnervingly loud. Even the glowstone, clutched in her hand, seemed to dim slightly here, its radiant warmth struggling against the pervasive chill that had nothing to do with temperature and everything to do with absence. She pressed on, her eyes scanning the gloom, seeking any sign, any path. The ground beneath her felt softer, a thick carpet of moss and fallen leaves that had accumulated over centuries, muffling all sound. Strange, luminous fungi dotted the roots and trunks, glowing with a faint otherworldly light, not the vibrant, cheerful glow of the glowworms she knew, but a wistful, melancholic luminescence, like embers long past their prime. Some of these fungi pulsed with a slow, deliberate rhythm, as if trying to beat back the encroaching twilight. A scent wafted through the air, unfamiliar yet strangely comforting. A blend of damp earth, rich wood, and something like distant honey, laced with an undertone of sweet, decaying petals. It was the smell of deep magic, slowly fading. Elara breathed it in, a shiver running down her spine that was both fear and exhilaration. This was it. This was the heart of the ancient forest, where the magic truly resided, or at least where its echoes still lingered. She noticed that the trees here were different too. Their branches, though massive, seemed less vibrant, their leaves a muted shade of emerald, edged with a faint, ghostly silver. Some of the older branches were bare, stark against the shadowy canopy, like skeletal fingers reaching for a light that no longer truly touched them. Elara reached out and gently touched a patch of bark on a towering oak, its surface cool and smooth beneath her fingers. She felt a faint thrum, a whisper of life. But it was weak, like an ancient heart struggling to beat. As she moved deeper, the path grew less distinct, melting into the natural contours of the roots. She had to climb over gnarled ridges and duck under low-hanging boughs that dripped with strands of phosphorescent moss. Her glowstone flickered again, a little more insistently this time, and Elara looked down at it, her brow furrowed. It felt tired, as if its own light was being absorbed by the ancient forest's sorrow. Suddenly, the air shimmered ahead, not like heat haze, but like a faint ripple in reality itself. Elara paused, her heart thumping softly. Through the shimmering air she saw it, a clearing, unlike any she had ever imagined. It was circular, perfectly round, and at its very center stood a pool of water, still and dark as polished obsidian. Around the pool, forming a silent, watchful circle, were 7 stones, each as tall as she was, uncarved, smooth, and gleaming with a faint internal light that struggled to break free. The sight was breathtaking, solemn, and utterly silent. Not a single leaf stirred, not a single insect buzzed. It was as if time itself held its breath in this hallowed space. Elara approached cautiously, her footsteps barely disturbing the moss. The shimmering air pulsed with a faint, almost imperceptible rhythm, as if the clearing itself was breathing. She knelt by the edge of the pool. The water was unnaturally still, reflecting the dim canopy above like a dark mirror. There was no ripple, no distortion. It felt impossibly cold, despite the temperate air. As Elara peered closer, she saw something beneath the surface, a faint, ethereal glow emanating from the depths. It was a soft, blue-white light, pulsing gently, like a sleeping star. But it was fading. With each pulse, it seemed to dim a fraction, only to gather itself again weakly. "The heartspring," Elara whispered, the words feeling ancient on her tongue. It was a legend from her grandmother's tales, a place where the lifeblood of the whisperwood gathered, guarded by ancient stones. But the legend spoke of it shimmering with vibrant, living light, not this fading, struggling glow. As she watched, a tiny ripple finally broke the surface of the pool, not from her touch, but from within. A small, gnarled hand, no bigger than her own, slowly emerged from the water, followed by an arm woven from moss and bark, adorned with tiny, luminous mushrooms. Then, a head, with eyes like polished riverstones, and hair like tangled roots, broke the surface. It was a root sprite, one of the oldest and most reclusive guardians of the deep forest. Its skin was mottled green and brown, perfectly camouflaged against the mossy banks, and its face, though ancient, held an expression of profound weariness. Its gaze, when it met Elara's, was sharp and intelligent, yet tinged with a deep sorrow. "You are here," the root sprite rasped, its voice like the gentle creak of old branches in the wind. The child of the light keepers, drawn by the dimming heart. It spoke common, but with an accent so ancient it was almost a song. Elara, startled but not afraid, bowed her head slightly. "Yes, Elder Sprite, my name is Elara. I have come to seek the truth of the fading light. The glowstone guided me. She held up the stone, which now pulsed with a renewed, though still faint energy, as if recognizing a kindred spirit. The root sprite's eyes fixed on the glowstone. Ah, the echo of Eridor. A true beacon, though its own light wanes with the forests. It slowly pulled itself further from the pool, revealing a small hunched body, no taller than Alara's waist. Its limbs were thin and sinewy, its fingers tipped with tiny, sharp claws, perfect for clinging to roots and bark. The truth, child, is simple and yet vast. The heartspring, the very core of the Whisperwood's magic, is faltering. It has been for many seasons, since the Great Silence began. The Great Silence? Elara asked, remembering the hushed forests, the absent birdsong. Aye, the Elder Council, who once gathered at the Sentinel Oak to channel the magic from the heartspring, they are gone, or scattered. Their songs, their rituals, the very connection that fed the oak, and through the oak, the spring, and through the oak, the spring, and through the spring, the entire forest, it has been broken. The root sprite gestured weakly towards the pool, its surface now still again, the inner light struggling. We, the sprites, the mosslings, the lesser guardians, we try. We sing the old songs, we weave what little magic we can, but we are too small, too few. The heartspring hungers for the grand magic, the coordinated chorus, the true channelers. Elara felt a pang of despair. So, there is no hope? The magic will simply die? The root sprite slowly shook its head. Not yet. Not while the echo of Eridor still glows, however faintly. Not while a child of the Lightkeepers still seeks. There is a way, a slim hope, but it lies beyond our grasp, beyond this spring. It lies with the Sentinel Oak itself. It is the last bastion, the final conduit. It hobbled closer to Elara, its eyes fixed on hers, ancient wisdom shining within them. The oak has been slumbering, drawing deep from its own reserves, but even it cannot sustain itself forever without the inflow from the heartspring. It needs to be reawakened, Elara. Its connection to the spring must be reforged, and only a pure heart, guided by the old ways, can touch its slumbering power. How? Elara asked, her voice barely a whisper. What must I do? You must reach the Sentinel Oak, the root sprite said, its voice gaining a touch of urgency. It lies beyond this clearing, deeper still, but the way is not open. The despair of the fading magic has woven a barrier, a defense that only true intent can pierce, and you must carry a spark, a symbol of hope, to awaken it. The root sprite reached into the pool with its gnarled hand. When it withdrew, its palm cupped a single luminous tear of water, shimmering with the same struggling blue-white light as the heartspring. This is a tear of the heart. It holds a fraction of the spring's essence. Carry it. Let its faint light guide you, and let your pure spirit be its vessel. Only then can you approach the oak and begin the true song. Elara carefully cupped her hands together, and the root sprite gently placed the tear of the heart within them. It was cool and weightless, a fragile bead of liquid light that pulsed with a desperate, tiny hope. Next to her glowstone, it seemed to gather strength, the two lights resonating faintly. Be warned, child, the root sprite continued, its voice dropping to a low rumble. The path to the Sentinel Oak is guarded not just by ancient magic, but by the lingering shadows of despair. The fading magic stirs forgotten fears, awakens dormant resentments. You may encounter illusions, doubts, and the very sorrow of the forest itself. Your courage, your hope, and the light you carry must be your shields. With a final weary nod, the root sprite slowly sank back into the pool, its form dissolving into the dark water until only tiny ripples remained, gently lapping at the ancient stones. The clearing fell silent once more, leaving Elara alone with the two luminous objects in her hands, and a task that felt impossibly vast. Taking a deep breath, Elara turned from the heartspring, her resolve strengthened. She knew what she had to do. With the glowstone radiating a steady, if subdued, warmth in one hand, and the fragile tear of the heart cradled in the other, she continued deeper into the ancient Whisperwood. The forest immediately changed around her. The trees grew even denser, their crowns interlocking so tightly that only slivers of the sky could be seen, turning the day into an eternal twilight. The air grew colder, and the rich, earthy scent was now mingled with a faint metallic tang, like old iron. The luminous fungi were fewer now, and those that remained glowed with a sickly, greenish hue, their pulses uneven and weak. The path, if it could be called that, twisted and turned, becoming a labyrinth of moss-covered roots and hollows. Elara found herself navigating by instinct, trusting the faint pull she felt towards the deepest, most ancient part of the forest, a pull that seemed to emanate from the very ground beneath her feet. The tear of the heart pulsed in her palm, its blue-white light growing slightly stronger with each step, as if feeding on her determination. As she walked, Elara began to hear things. Faint whispers, like the rustling of dry leaves, seemed to coil around her. They were not words she could understand, but rather a cacophony of soft, melancholic sighs, like the collective breath of 1,000 slumbering trees dreaming of greener days. Doubt began to creep in, a cold finger tracing its way up her spine. What, if I'm not strong enough? What if the Elder Council couldn't do it? How can a simple village girl? If so, then why? She shook her head, trying to clear the thoughts, but they clung to her like spiderwebs in the dark. The whispers grew louder, morphing into faint, familiar voices. She heard her own mother's gentle chiding about wandering too far, her father's gruff warnings about the dangers of the deep woods. They weren't angry voices, but soft, persuasive ones, urging her to turn back, to return to the safety of the village. The forest is too old, Elara. Too broken. You cannot mend what is so deeply withered. Elara paused, closing her eyes tightly. The voices felt so real, so compelling. Her heart ached with longing for the familiar comfort of her home, for the warm hearth and her parents' loving presence. But then she remembered the fading moonlight, the desperate plea of the root sprite, the wilting flowers. She remembered the courage that had bloomed within her since she first felt the glowstone's call. She opened her eyes, fixing her gaze on the tear of the heart. It pulsed steadily, a tiny defiance against the encroaching darkness. Her own resolve hardened. No, she whispered, her voice surprisingly firm in the echoing silence. I will not turn back. The forest needs me. With each step, the whispers seemed to recede, as if her determination pushed them away. The path began to rise subtly, a slow, arduous ascent over roots that grew larger and more tangled. The trees here were truly immense, their canopies so high they seemed to brush against the low-hanging clouds. Their bark was scarred and weathered, deeply furrowed with the passage of countless centuries. Then, through a sudden break in the dense foliage, Elara saw it. It stood silhouetted against the perpetually dim sky, a colossal presence that dwarfed all other trees, even the ancient giants around it. Its trunk was wider than any building in her village, its branches reaching skyward like the arms of a slumbering god, some of them so vast they were like smaller trees themselves. This was not merely a tree, it was a living monument, a cathedral of wood and leaf, radiating an aura of immense age and power, even in its current diminished state. The Sentinel Oak. A profound sense of awe washed over Elara, silencing all remaining doubts. It was even grander, even more magnificent than the legends described. But there was also a deep sadness emanating from it, a silent lament that resonated in her very bones. The oak's leaves, though still present, were a dull, muted green, and many of its mighty branches were bare, stark against the grayness. As she drew closer, the path ended abruptly at a formidable barrier. Not a wall of stone, but a tangled, impenetrable thicket of thorns. These were no ordinary thorns. They were dark as obsidian, sharp as needles, and woven together so tightly they formed a solid shimmering wall that stretched infinitely in either direction and soared higher than Elara could see. A faint, greenish-black energy crackled between them, like static electricity, and a low, resonant hum emanated from the barrier, a sound of warning and protection. This was the despair. The root sprite had warned her. This was the Sentinel Oak's last, desperate defense, formed from the sorrow of the fading magic itself. Elara approached the thorny wall cautiously, her heart pounding. The air here was heavy with a palpable sense of grief and isolation. She could feel the immense ancient life force of the Sentinel Oak just beyond, but it was shrouded, unreachable. She extended her hand towards the thorns, the glowstone and the tear of the heart pulsing in her open palm. The green-black energy intensified, and a faint, mournful groan seemed to emanate from the thorns themselves, as if they were alive and in pain. She felt a slight pushback, a chilling sensation that warned her away. "I mean no harm," Elara whispered, her voice trembling slightly, but firm. "I have come to help. I carry the light of Eredor and the essence of the Heartspring." She focused all her will, all her courage, all the burgeoning hope within her, on the two lights in her hand. The glowstone brightened, a warm, golden glow spreading from her fingers. The tear of the heart, cradled beside it, pulsed with a renewed, vibrant blue-white, its fragile light reaching out towards the thorny barrier. Where the combined light touched the thorns, something extraordinary happened. The green-black energy flickered, then receded, like shadows fleeing from the dawn. The obsidian thorns, instead of recoiling, began to soften, their sharp points dulling, their rigid forms slowly dissolving into tendrils of gentle, shimmering mist. A narrow opening, just wide enough for her to pass, slowly unwove itself in the thorny wall, revealing a path leading directly to the immense trunk of the sentinel oak. Elara's breath caught in her throat. It worked. Sigh. Her light, her hope, had opened a way. Stepping through the dissolving barrier, she felt the profound shift in the air. The sadness was still there, a deep, ancient sorrow, but now it was tinged with a fragile, almost imperceptible thread of anticipation, like the first stirrings of spring after a long winter. The ground beneath her feet was softer, richer, covered in a blanket of emerald moss that seemed to glow with a faint internal light. She stood at the base of the sentinel oak, its colossal trunk rising before her like a mountain. The bark here was not just scarred, but intricately patterned with ancient symbols and runes, barely visible beneath layers of time-worn moss. These were the carvings of the Elder Council, the marks of their power, their wisdom, and their connection to the forest's heart. Elara reached out, her hand trembling, and placed her palm flat against the cool, rough bark of the sentinel oak. The glowstone rested against the wood, and the tear of the heart pulsed softly in her hand. A shiver ran through the ancient tree, a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through Elara's entire being. It was like touching the very pulse of the world. And then, a voice, not heard with her ears but felt in her mind, resonated through her. It was deep, ancient and weary, like the sigh of 1,000 years. "Welcome, child of light. Dai. You have come. But the slumber is deep, and the song is forgotten. I am fading. And Senimoyo now." Elara looked up at the immense canopy of the sentinel oak, her heart filled with a renewed sense of purpose. She had reached it. She had passed the despair. Now, she had to find the forgotten song, the lost ritual, to awaken the ancient heart and bring the light back to the Whisperwood. The truth of the fading light was not just that the Elder Council was gone, but that its essence, its connection, needed to be rekindled. And she, Elara, with her simple glowstone and a fragile tear of the heart, was the only hope. She stood beneath the immense canopy of the sentinel oak, her heart filled with a renewed sense of purpose. She had reached it. She had passed the despair. Now she had to find the forgotten song, the lost ritual, to awaken the ancient heart and bring the light back to the Whisperwood. The truth of the fading light was not just that the Elder Council was gone, but that its essence, its connection, needed to be rekindled. And she, Elara, with her simple glowstone and a fragile tear of the heart, was the only hope. Elara took a deep, tremulous breath. The air beneath the sentinel oak was different, thicker with ancient memories, sweet with the scent of old bark and dewy moss, and humming with a faint, almost imperceptible energy. Above her, the colossal branches spread like a second sky, their leaves forming a dense, shimmering dome that filtered the pale moonlight into soft emerald motes. The ground beneath her feet was not bare earth, but a springy carpet of bioluminescent moss and tiny star-like ferns that pulsed with a gentle, rhythmic glow. This was not merely a tree, it was a living world. She looked around, her glowstone held aloft. Its soft light seemed to deepen the shadows and highlight the intricate patterns of bark that spiraled up the immense trunk, as if whispering stories of ages past. There was no obvious door, no grand entrance, only the sheer towering wall of the trunk itself. But as her gaze swept across its surface, she noticed something. A faint silvery tracery, almost invisible, winding upwards like a forgotten river. It shimmered with an inner light, a path born not of stone or earth, but of pure, distilled magic. "Is this the way?" she whispered, her voice swallowed by the vast silence. As if in answer, the tear of the heart, nestled securely in her pouch, pulsed with a warm, comforting thrum against her hip. It felt like a gentle nudge, a quiet reassurance. Taking courage, Elara placed her hand on the silvery tracery. It felt cool and smooth beneath her fingers, like polished moonlight. As she touched it, the path brightened slightly, and a soft hum resonated through the trunk, a sound felt more than heard, deep in her very bones. She began to climb, not truly climbing in the way one might scale a hill, but rather ascending an invisible spiral staircase woven into the very fabric of the tree. The silvery path was a gentle incline, wide enough for her small feet, and it carried her upwards with an almost effortless grace. With every step, the moss beneath her feet grew softer, and the air grew warmer, infused with a subtle, nurturing energy. Tiny, unseen creatures rustled in the foliage, their soft chirps and clicks like a lullaby. Higher and higher she went, until the canopy floor seemed a distant, glowing circle below. The trunk here was hollowed, not by decay but by design, creating a vast, spiraling chamber within. The silvery path continued, leading her along the inner curve of this immense space. Above, shafts of moonlight pierced through hidden vents in the canopy, illuminating dust motes that danced like tiny spirits in the air. The walls of this chamber were not rough bark, but smooth, polished wood, inlaid with patterns of glowing amber and deep sapphire, that seemed to shift and flow with unseen currents. She reached a wide circular platform where the silvery path seemed to pause. In the very center of the platform stood an ancient, gnarled pedestal, crafted from a wood so dark it seemed to absorb all light. Upon it rested a single shimmering orb, no larger than her fist. It pulsed with a soft internal radiance, a miniature sun holding a universe of shimmering colors within its depths. As she approached, the orb seemed to breathing, its light expanding and contracting with a slow, steady rhythm. "What is this?" Elara breathed, drawing closer. As she reached out a tentative hand, a wisp of light detached itself from the orb. It coalesced it into a delicate moth-like creature, its wings spun from pure starlight and its body no more than a glowing ember. It flitted around her head, its movements graceful and silent, before settling gently on the back of her hand. A faint, sweet melody, like the chime of tiny bells, resonated in her mind, not with words, but with a feeling of profound welcome and ancient wisdom. "Little seeker," the melody whispered directly into her thoughts, "you have found the Heartwood Archive. The song you seek is woven into the very breath of this place." Elara gasped softly. "You can speak to me?" The moth-light fluttered its wings. "Why, are echoes of the council woven into the sentinel's dreams. We watch, we remember, we guide those who are pure of heart. The fading light has stirred us from our slumber, just as it has stirred you. I need to find the forgotten song and the lost ritual," Elara explained, her voice earnest. "To awaken the ancient heart and bring back the light. The mothlight pulsed, and a wave of gentle sadness washed over Elara, not her own, but an echo of the ancient spirit's grief. The council's connection was severed when the shadow came. Their song, their ritual, was not forgotten by them, but obscured, hidden from the encroaching darkness. It lives here, within the very essence of the sentinel oak. But the path is not simple," the mothlight continued, its melody growing more complex. "To hear the song you must first quiet the echoes of the fading. To perform the ritual, you must remember the warmth of the connection. The darkness seeks to distract, to sow doubt. Even here its tendrils can reach." As if to illustrate its point, a faint chill permeated the air. The glowing patterns on the walls flickered, and for a fleeting moment, Elara felt a familiar tremor of despair, a whisper of futility. "It's too big. You're too small. The light is gone forever." Elara clutched her glowstone, its steady warmth a defiance against the fleeting cold. She remembered the path through the shadowmire, the faces of the little glow mice, the unwavering hope in their eyes. "I won't let it," she declared, her voice firm. "I have hope, and I have the tear of the heart." She reached into her pouch and drew out the tear. It pulsed with a vibrant emerald light, a counterpoint to the mothlight's soft glow. As she held it, the chill receded, and the patterns on the wall steadied once more. The mothlight fluttered excitedly. "Indeed, little seeker, the tear is a beacon. It will guide you through the labyrinth of echoes. Follow the whisper light, and let your own heart be your compass." With a final gentle tap on her hand, the moth light dissolved back into the shimmering orb on the pedestal. But, before it vanished entirely, a trail of tiny, glowing motes drifted from the orb and coalesced into a shimmering path, leading away from the platform and deeper into the Heartwood archive. This path was different from the silvery one that brought her here. It was made of pure, ephemeral light, a constellation of dancing sparks. "The labyrinth of echoes," Elara murmured, remembering the moth light's words. She took a deep breath, her glowstone in one hand, the tear of the heart held carefully in the other. "Here I go." She stepped onto the path of dancing sparks. It felt strangely firm beneath her feet, like walking on a cloud. The path wound deeper into the vast hollowed trunk, where the walls were no longer smooth, but intricately carved with ancient symbols and swirling patterns that seemed to tell stories without words. As she progressed, the air began to fill with faint ethereal sounds, the rustling of unseen leaves, the distant murmur of water, the gentle sigh of wind through branches. These were the echoes, she realized, the memories of the Whisperwood itself, woven into the tree. But among these beautiful sounds, other, less pleasant whispers began to emerge. Faint, ghostly voices, like distant laments. "It's no use. The darkness consumes. All is lost." These were the echoes of the despair she had overcome, manifesting anew in this place of memory. They tried to seep into her thoughts, to cloud her resolve, to make her forget her purpose. Elara closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the warmth of her glowstone and the steady pulse of the tear of the heart. She remembered the faces of the little glow mice, their unwavering faith. She remembered the warmth of the sun on her face, the joy of a clear stream, the vibrant colors of a blooming flower. These were the things worth fighting for, the light worth rekindling. "No," she said aloud, her voice clear and firm. "I am not lost. I am here to find the light." As she spoke, the tear of the heart flared brightly, and the whisper-light path ahead of her pulsed with renewed vigor. The negative echoes seemed to shrink back, their voices fading into the background. Elara kept walking, letting the tear guide her, its emerald glow illuminating the intricate carvings on the walls. The path led her through chambers that opened like secret blossoms within the tree. One chamber was filled with glowing crystalline flowers that chimed softly with every breath of air. Another contained a pool of perfectly still water that reflected the entire universe in its depths. In each space, the echoes of the Whisperwood grew stronger, more vibrant. She heard the laughter of unseen sprites, the songs of ancient birds, the gentle wisdom of the Elder Council themselves, not in words, but in feelings of peace and connection. She realized that the labyrinth of echoes wasn't meant to trap her, but to test her ability to discern the true whispers from the false ones, to hold on to hope amidst the shadows. The despair wasn't a physical barrier, but a cloud of doubt designed to obscure the path. Finally, after what felt like an age of wandering through these magical spaces, the path of dancing sparks led her into a truly magnificent chamber, unlike any she had seen before. This was not a hollowed space, but a vast open cavern formed by the intertwining of roots and branches, so immense that the sentinel oak seemed to contain an entire forest within its heart. The ceiling was a dome of living branches, interwoven so tightly that they formed a canopy of glowing leaves that diffused a gentle, golden light throughout the chamber. In the very center of this root and branch cathedral stood a colossal, ancient root, wider than a house, that pulsed with a deep, resonant hum. It was covered in mosses that glowed with every color imaginable, and tiny, luminous flowers bloomed along its length, their petals unfurling and closing in a slow, rhythmic dance. This, Elara knew, was the true core, the place where the ancient heart of the Whisperwood resided, dormant and silent. But what truly captivated her attention was the air itself. It shimmered with patterns of pure sound, visible as delicate, glowing threads of light that wove through the chamber like an intricate tapestry. These threads were constantly in motion, flowing and intertwining, rising and falling in an ethereal dance. The Whisperweave. A new voice resonated in her mind, not a whisper, but a clear melodic chime. It came from a cluster of the luminous flowers on the colossal root, which now unfolded to reveal a tiny luminous being, no larger than her thumb, made entirely of pure shimmering light. Its form was vaguely humanoid, with delicate wings like a dragonfly's, and eyes that glowed with ancient wisdom. It was a lumina, a core spirit of the sentinel oak, one of the oldest and purest forms of tree sprite. "The forgotten song is not forgotten, little seeker," the lumina chimed, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. It is the very essence of the whisper weave, the song of connection that binds all life in this forest. When the elder council passed, their voices, their magic, their very being, became part of this weave. But the darkness created a dissonance, a silence that veiled its true melody. Elara stared, awestruck, at the shimmering threads of light. How do I hear it? How do I learn it? The lumina floated closer, its light illuminating the tear of the heart she still held. The tear is the key to hearing, little seeker. It is a piece of the ancient heart itself, a resonance stone. When you hold it and open your own heart to the forest, the dissonance will fade, and the true melody will reveal itself. As for the ritual, the lumina continued, its light swirling gently. It is not a series of complex gestures, but a dance of communion. It is the act of becoming one with the whisper weave, guiding your own light, your own hope, into its patterns. The elder council did not just sing a song. They became the song, merging their essence with the forest to awaken its heart. You, little seeker, must do the same, merging their essence with the forest to... Elara looked from the lumina to the tear of the heart, then to the shimmering whisper weave that filled the chamber. It felt overwhelming, yet strangely simple. To become the song, to guide her own light. How do I become the song? She asked, her voice hushed. The lumina drifted towards the colossal root, where the luminous flowers bloomed. You must listen, truly listen, with your heart and soul. Let the tear open your inner ears. Then, you must let your own light flow, not just from your glowstone, but from within you, from your hope, from your love for the whisperwood. Guide it into the patterns that resonate with the essence of connection. These are the patterns of giving and receiving, of growth and renewal, of deep roots and reaching branches. Elara nodded slowly, a sense of deep understanding beginning to bloom within her. The despair she had passed was the silence, the broken connection. The song was the mending, the reweaving. She closed her eyes, holding the tear of the heart to her chest. Its emerald light pulsed, warm and vibrant. She took a deep breath, letting the ancient earthy scent of the sentinel oak fill her lungs, letting the gentle hum of the immense root resonate through her body. She thought of the little glow mice, their unwavering faith. She thought of the fading lights in the forest, the silence where once there was birdsong. She thought of the promise she had made to bring the light back. Slowly, gently, she began to hum. It was a simple, wordless tune, one that came from deep within her, a melody of hope and quiet determination. As her hum mingled with the ancient hum of the root, the tear of the heart began to glow brighter, its light expanding, flowing outwards. Not just light, but sound and feeling. The shimmering threads of the whisper weave in the chamber began to shift, reorganizing themselves. The dissonant whispers faded entirely, replaced by a pure resonant symphony. It wasn't a single melody, but a chorus of 1,000 voices, the combined wisdom and love of the elder council, the song of the forest itself. It spoke of deep roots intertwining, of sap rising, of leaves unfurling to greet the sun, of ancient stones holding secrets, of streams weaving through the earth, connecting all things. Elara opened her eyes. The chamber was bathed in an otherworldly glow, the whisper weave pulsing with unimaginable beauty. She could even see the song now in the flowing patterns of light, in the harmonious dance of the threads. It was a language of pure magic, a vibrant symphony of life. The lumina hovered before her, its light bright with approval. You hear it, little seeker, you have found the forgotten song. It is the song of unbroken connection, the heartweave melody. I see it, Elara whispered, tears pricking her eyes, not of sadness, but of profound wonder. It's beautiful. And now the ritual, the lumina chimed softly. To awaken the ancient heart, you must become part of this melody. You must guide your own light, your own hope, into these patterns, especially the patterns of renewal and shared warmth. The heart of the whisperwood longs for connection, for the elder council's essence to be made whole again. Elara looked at the colossal, silent root, where the ancient heart lay dormant. She understood now. It wasn't just about singing a tune. It was about embodying the spirit of the song, about infusing the whisper weave with her own untainted hope and love for the forest. She had found the song. She had understood the ritual. Now, she had to perform it. But not just yet, not here. The full awakening, the true rekindling, would require a deeper communion, a moment when the light could truly return to every corner of the Whisperwood. She had the knowledge, she had the means. The next step was to find the perfect moment, the perfect place, to unleash this ancient power and bring the full brilliance of the light back to her fading home. The Whisperwood still waited, but Elara now held its very heart in her hands, ready to sing it back to life. Elara felt the pulse of the heartstone warm against her palm, a living ember of hope in the deepening twilight. The air grew cooler, the shadows longer, but within her, a quiet fire had been lit. She knew where she had to go. Not to a hidden grotto or a secret spring, but to the very core of the Whisperwood's fading memory, the great Elderwood. The Elderwood, once a beacon of verdant life and ancient wisdom, now stood as a gnarled, skeletal silhouette against the bruised purple of the evening sky. Its mighty branches, which had once cradled entire ecosystems, were now brittle, claw-like, stripped of their vibrant foliage, whispering only sorrow in the wind. Its roots, once a vast network pulsing with the forest's lifeblood, were now visible, cracked and dry, like old veins on a withered hand. It was the first to fall silent, and it would be the first to sing again. With a deep breath that tasted of damp earth and the fading scent of forgotten blossoms, Elara set off. Her footsteps were light, almost unheard, on the carpet of decaying leaves. Around her the Whisperwood lived up to its name, a place of hushed sighs and rustling secrets. But these were not the joyous whispers of thriving life. They were the mournful murmurs of a forest holding its breath, waiting. Her familiar Flicker, a tiny lumina moth with wings like spun moonlight, fluttered ahead, its faint glow a gentle guide through the growing gloom. Flicker had been Elara's constant companion since she was a small child, a silent witness to the gradual dimming of their world. Tonight, its light seemed to quiver with an anticipation that mirrored Elara's own. As they journeyed deeper, the silence grew heavy, broken only by the distant hoot of a lonely owl or the scuttling of some unseen creature. The glow moss that usually illuminated the forest floor was dull, almost extinguished, and the vibrant hues of the undergrowth were muted to shades of grey and brown. Elara's heart ached with every step, seeing the stark reality of what the Whisperwood had become. Yet the heartstone in her hand pulsed steadily, a warm comfort, a promise. Finally, they reached the clearing of the great Elderwood. It was a vast, desolate space, choked with the ghosts of once proud ferns and forgotten wildflowers. The Elderwood itself loomed, a monument to loss, its massive trunk resembling a sculptor's rough-hewn masterpiece, imbued with a terrible, silent dignity. The air here was colder, heavier, charged with the lingering sorrow of ages. Elara approached the base of the colossal tree. Its lowest branches, gnarled and thick as smaller trees, formed a sort of natural alcove, a hollow within its vastness. She gently touched the rough bark, feeling the cold, lifeless surface. "Not for long," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the stillness. She found a comfortable spot amidst the Elderwood's sprawling roots, a natural seat worn smooth by centuries of forest dwellers and ancient spirits. Flicker settled on her shoulder, its tiny antennae twitching, its light pulsing faster. Carefully, reverently, Elara placed the heartstone in the hollow of her cupped hands, holding it up before her. The stone, no longer merely warm, began to glow with a soft internal luminescence, casting a gentle, golden light upon her face. It was a faint echo of the brilliance it would soon unleash. Taking another deep breath, Elara closed her eyes, letting the pulse of the stone resonate with her own heartbeat. She reached out with her mind, with her spirit, connecting to the ancient roots beneath her, to the dormant life all around. Then, she began to sing. It was not a song of words, but of feeling. A melody born of memory, of longing, of unwavering hope. It began as a soft hum, a low resonant vibration that seemed to rise from the very earth itself. It spoke of the first sunrise over the Whisperwood, of the ancient streams that carved paths through its heart, of the gentle rain that nourished its leaves, of the laughter of sprites and the wisdom of old trees. As her song grew, a faint shimmer began to emanate from the heartstone, expanding slowly, pushing back against the heavy shadows of the clearing. But the darkness, though passive, was deep-seated. It had settled for so long that it resisted, not with malice, but with inertia. A creeping chill intensified, and the air seemed to grow thick, heavy. Spectral tendrils of gloom, like wisps of forgotten despair, seemed to writhe at the edges of the burgeoning light, attempting to absorb it, to smother it. Whispers, not of the forest, but of ancient fears and sorrows, seemed to rise from the very ground, trying to seep into Elara's mind, to plant doubts. "It is too late," they seemed to sigh. "The fading is complete. Your song is but a whisper against the silence." Elara felt the pressure, the cold certainty of the shadows trying to reclaim their dominion. Her voice wavered for a moment, a tiny flicker of doubt threatening to extinguish her resolve. But then she thought of the young sapling she had seen, struggling for light, of the tiny brave glow moss that still tried to shine, of Flicker's persistent, hopeful glow on her shoulder. She thought of the promise she had made, not just to herself, but to the very soul of the Whisperwood. She pushed back. Her eyes still closed, she poured every ounce of her will, every memory of the forest's past glory, every dream of its future vibrancy, into her song. The melody deepened, gaining power, becoming a river of pure, crystalline sound. The heartstone responded, its glow intensifying, pulsing with a rhythm that matched the rising crescendo of her voice. The spectral tendrils of gloom recoiled, hissed like steam against fire. The creeping chill dissipated, replaced by a gentle warmth that spread outwards from Elara and the heartstone. The whispers of despair were drowned out by the growing resonance of her song, which now seemed to vibrate through the very roots of the elderwood itself. With a soft, almost imperceptible shudder, the colossal tree began to respond. A faint greenish tinge appeared on its dry, cracked bark, a subtle flush of returning life. Then, a single, tiny bud, impossibly green and vibrant, unfurled on one of the lowest, most ancient branches. It was a miracle, a silent testament to the power of her song. Elara's voice soared, a powerful, wordless anthem that pierced the remaining gloom. The heartstone flared, not with a gentle glow now, but with an incandescent burst of pure golden light, radiating outwards in brilliant waves. It was as if the sun itself had been born anew within the heart of the elderwood. The light touched the elderwood, and the transformation was breathtaking. The ancient bark softened, smoothed, becoming supple and alive. Knots and fissures vanished, replaced by a rich dark texture that shimmered with nascent energy. Along its vast, reaching branches, thousands of new buds burst forth simultaneously, unfurling into leaves of an emerald so deep and vibrant, it seemed to drink in the very essence of the returning magic. Dewdrops, like tiny jewels, sparkled on their surfaces, catching the heartstone's brilliant light. The elderwood, once a symbol of sorrow, now stood reborn, a colossal beacon of life, its leaves rustling with a joyous whispered song that joined Elara's. And the light continued to spread. It raced along the elderwood's roots, weaving like golden threads through the earth, touching the dormant life beneath the forest floor. With every pulse of the heartstone, with every soaring note of Elara's song, the Whisperwood awoke. The gray, dull earth beneath her feet seemed to sigh in relief, then burst into a riot of color. Wildflowers, long dormant, pushed through the soil, their petals unfurling in brilliant blues, purples, golds and reds, their sweet perfume filling the air. The glow moss on the forest floor, once dim, now blazed with a soft ethereal luminescence, creating pathways of starlight through the trees. The streams, which had barely trickled, began to babble merrily, their waters clear and sparkling, reflecting the new light. The air itself grew lighter, fresher, imbued with a vibrant energy that hummed like a chorus of invisible bees. From hidden nooks and shadowed hollows, forest creatures began to emerge. Tiny, timid sprites, their gossamer wings shimmering, danced in the newly awakened light. Small, furry creatures, their eyes wide with wonder, peeked from behind rejuvenated bushes. A family of deer, their coats sleek and healthy, stepped into the clearing, their expressions calm, their fear replaced by a quiet awe. Even the lonely owl, whose hoot had once been a lament, now let out a joyous call, its golden eyes reflecting the splendor. Elara, her voice now a part of the forest's own song, felt an overwhelming sense of connection. The joy, the gratitude, the sheer life of the Whisperwood flowed into her, through her, making her feel woven into its very tapestry. She was no longer just an observer. She was an essential thread, a guardian of its enduring light. Flicker, her little lumina moth, left her shoulder, spiraling upwards into the newly green canopy of the elderwood, its glow now a vibrant dancing star among the fresh leaves, joining the celebration. Slowly, as the last tendrils of fading light were banished, and the Whisperwood hummed with full, magical vibrancy. Elara's song began to soften, to fade into a gentle hum. The Heartstone, its purpose fulfilled, settled back into a steady, warm glow, nestled safely within the Elderwood's roots, becoming one with the forest once more. It would pulse there forever, the living heart of the Whisperwood. Elara opened her eyes. The clearing was bathed in the soft, magical light of the rejuvenated forest. The great Elderwood stood before her, majestic and alive, its leaves rustling with ancient stories and new beginnings. The air was sweet with the scent of blossoms and damp earth, filled with the gentle music of flowing water and the chirping of awakened birds. She stood, feeling a profound weariness, but an even deeper sense of peace and triumph. Her journey was complete. The Whisperwood was no longer fading. It was vibrant, magical, alive once more. As the first blush of true dawn began to paint the sky a soft rose and gold, Elara looked out at the forest, her home, now brimming with light and life. She had sung it back to life, and its song would now carry on, strong and bright, for all time. With a final, contented sigh, Elara knew her task was done. The Whisperwood had found its heart again, and she, its quiet guardian, would ensure its light would never fade. She smiled, a gentle, tired smile, and watched the magical dawn break over her beautiful reborn home. All was well in the Whisperwood, and its dreams would be sweet and bright, forevermore.